Alright, what we're doing today is we're going to remove the fuel tank skid plate. It gets pretty beat up on the trail, so it's pretty rusted out too from the Pennsylvania winters. So I'll show you what it looks like. First we started by loosening all the bolts. There's 8 bolts, I believe, holding it up. So got the impact wrench and loosened all those up before we do anything else. So there it is there. You obviously see a lot of rust in here. It's pretty dirty right now, but pretty beat up. There's some little holes in it, some dents and stuff. So we're gonna pull this off. We're gonna sand it real good. We're gonna repaint it with Por 15, and obviously while we're in there, hit the frame and everything up in there with some paint. Make sure there's no rust in it and everything. So you can see there's a bolt there, there, and there. 3 on this side. There's 2 way in the front there. You can't miss those. There's 2 here on the sides, on the outside of it, and then there's 1 way up in there. You can see. So loosened all of them just to make sure that we don't go to torch them off or anything. And then next we are going to start disassembling everything up there. All right, first what you want to start with is this fuel line, the one that was used to actually fill up the gas tank. First we open the gas tank cap to release some pressure, hopefully. So you can see there, just took a screwdriver, loosened it. We're just gonna try to pull it off. None of this stuff's gonna be easy, of course. All right, before we pull this off, actually, we're gonna run over here, pull this fuel line off first. You can see it's the one connected here. It's kind of hard to see unless you're up in there, but there's this little tab right there. See that little metal tab, or it could be like a whitish color too. You wanna use a screwdriver or something, give that a little bit of pressure, push down on it, it'll pop right off, as you can see. And then second, we'll pull this one off, and then I believe there's 2 more up there we can pull off, or you can just do it off off the evap canister here. You just take it off there, let it dangle. I'm gonna try to get it off this end. If not, it's kind of hard to reach back there. We're just gonna take it off the evap canister here, much easier to get to. So we'll get this off next. I'm probably gonna set the camera down. It's gonna takes a little bit of muscle to do that. Okay, we got all but one thing disconnected, which is the electrical wire, which sits way up on the top. We gotta actually drop everything before we can get that. So we got that off. It's sitting up here. Along with this, it goes on to there. I was not able to remove this hose that goes to the evap canister, so we ended up just removing it from the evap canister. They're kind of difficult to move around. You gotta, when it's on there, you actually have to pinch the sides here, push in, and then pull. It's a little difficult, you'll see. So if you're doing it that way, there's this here with the little green tab. You gotta take that off too, because it's connected to the hose for the evap canister. So you can see the little green tabs. You just pinch each side of those and pull this little hose off. There's also 1 more of those. You can see it up in there. Very, very, very difficult to get to. It took me about 20 minutes with a pair of pliers. When you pinch that green tab, try to get a closer look up. When you pinch that green tab, you want to push it in and then pull. Same with the evap canister hose, because there's a small lip it's got to get over. So that one took me quite a while to do, but it's finally off. So at this point, we've got the floor jack holding the rear up, because that's where the electrical wire is going to be, right up above there. I believe it's right here. 2 jack stands down there. We're going to loosen all these up, take these bolts out, and start to let it drop slowly. that side should be fine just to come down, but we're gonna hold it up. I don't know exactly what's on top of it, but I guess we'll find out. All right, we got all the hard ones out. You're gonna definitely need a good 1/2 inch to 1/2 inch, which I did, and I only had 1/2 inch to 3/8, so put a couple things on there. Wouldn't recommend that, but it works. You're gonna want an extender on there to reach those other ones. This one's about 6 inches, I believe. Definitely want about that size, so we're gonna zip the other ones off here. Take the extender off. See, I had a little bit of a difficult time with the other ones. They're all rusted and corroded and everything. Can't really see down in there, but we'll get it all fixed up. See all the rust. Starting to form some holes. Not good. So, get that zipped off there. Always have some PB Blaster available. There it is. Whew, it's hot. All right, got that one, and there's two over there. There's two over there. Will come out pretty easily. That one's probably gonna give us a little bit of issue. I got all the bolts out here. It's still holding up pretty well. I think I've got the skid plates under here. I'm pretty sure this is gonna end up having. This transfer case skid plate's gonna end up having to come off so we can get it off that lip there, because I don't think it's gonna let the rest of it come down. So which is kind of gonna be a pain, because we gotta take off all the skid plates just to get that one off. So that'll be kind of a pain. So we're gonna try to work around that. If not, skid plate's coming off. Works. All right, for those of you that have skid plates, what I ended up doing was removing, there's 4 bolts, all but one, just to let this shift out. You can see I was able to move over. Also removed this bolt out here from the transfer case skid, so it lets it shift, obviously. So now it looks like we're gonna be able to pull it out. So we should be able to drop it at this point. Shouldn't be any issues, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, we ended up doing a few modifications. There is the transfer case skid that had to completely come out. We finally got it dropped. Finally. So there's everything that we unhooked to begin with. That was all good. Once you drop it, you want to undo this electrical wire here. Just slide that slide that piece over. It's like any of the other ones. Slide that piece over, press the button, and pull it out. Because it's so old and it was all caked up with mud and stuff, it was a little difficult to get out. So once it's dropped too, you want to come over here, disconnect this line, the blue tabs, again, push and pull. There's another one over here. This longer one that's more toward the frame over here, you can see I have it pushed up in there. That's going to be the fuel line. It'll definitely drain some gas onto the ground, so be careful when you do that one. Again, it's the one the closest to the frame. See, it dripped a little bit. So after you undo that, it's pretty much ready to go, ready to move out. So just waiting for my wife to come out here, help me slide it out and move it out in the yard. So obviously, just like I thought, good bit of surface rust, nothing, a little bit of peeling there, a little bit of, or flaking rather. Definitely a lot of flaking up there, so we're gonna get all that taken care of. You can see we did it's pretty dirty, the Pour 15 on all this stuff. It was the same way. That stuff works real well. Get it all cleaned up, but yeah, that's about. Took 2 Amazon boxes, stuck them underneath just in case it fell real hard, cushioned it, filled it up with some other little things, and that way we can pull it out a little easier. You just slide right across them. Alright, there she is. So there's the 2 fuel lines. There's the one the gas will drain out of, you can see there. So just tuck that down in so you don't splash it everywhere. You can see why these are so hard. They're gonna be caked up with mud and stuff. So probably could have sprayed them some soapy water or something on them. Maybe it would have made it easier. I don't know, but it's gonna be kind of difficult if you get any mud or anything. So we're gonna fix this all up. It's obviously rust all over it. Once we get it sanded and painted, show you how we do that, and then we'll reinstall it. Okay, we got these separated. There's a gas tank. There's some rust that came out of the skid. I just sprayed off the skid. There's the bottom. Inside, that's all rust. Clearly see a lot of it's flaking, and all of that is rust that came off just from spraying it. So there's a lot of flaking rust on it. We're gonna scrape it and sand it. You can see how bad that got. None of the rest of the Jeep isn't that bad at all, but this thing did not hold up very well. So start taking care of that, clean this up out of the yard before I get yelled at by the wife. You can see all this flaking off. It's not good.
Dad, I found a big piece of glass.
Alright, just work at it, kiddo.
Dad, look. This big piece of glass.
Yeah, it's rusted the whole way through. Alright, so I think this might be a little bit more work than I thought it was going to be. You can see here in places like this, it's all whole, that's rusted through. A lot of mud and stuff in there, and just banging on it, it'll fire it through. These, I don't know if I want to call it a poor design or not, but you can see these bumps here basically hold the gas tank in place. You can see right there and there, they kind of just sit in place. I wish I could just cut these out, that way I could paint over it, because what's happening is between this very small plate and that small plate there, it's all rusting out. You can see the other side's actually down there, so and the bump comes all the way over here, so it's just rusting out from the inside there. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much I can do. Just try to clean it out the best I can and get the PO or the POR 15, POR 15, whatever you want to call it, in there. I just thought about completely replacing this, but I think we'll be okay if we just fix this stuff up the best that we can. Paint it. If it rusts through in the future, it rusts through in the future. No big deal. We'll have another plate over top of it. That way we don't damage that on a rock or anything. So we'll have double the protection, even if this rusts the whole way through and, you know, these spots here. So right now we're just going to work on trying to get all this stuff off, and especially this is going to be a little bit more of a project. I'm probably just going to end up cutting this out. These, it doesn't look so bad yet. It's not spongy and falling through yet. When I bang on it, it's still pretty solid for the most part. So we'll salvage it. It's not the worst. Definitely seen worse. So, all right. So day 2, we're working on this thing. I'll show you the other side. There's some pretty decent sized holes in it where they're at. You can see one there. Put a hole in it while I was trying to scrape things. It was real soft to begin with. And there was a second one. There it is there. You can see through there. That's where I think it was kind of the poor design. All the salt and everything just sticks up in there and just rusts right through. So no big deal. We're gonna try to fix it. I couldn't get the angle grinder to work to cut all of it out. So go with what we got, but obviously very, very rusted. And what I want to show you here is all this black here is actually a rubberized paint. Whoever had the Jeep before me just threw some rubberized paint. Comes off real easily right over top of rust, which you can definitely see it right here. I just scraped it a little bit. There's a bunch of rust underneath the rubberized paint. I really don't like the rubber stuff. All it does is seal the rust in and makes it rust the whole way through. It doesn't actually do anything to it. That's why we're going to use POR 15 to actually seal up the rust. The rubberized paint actually just holds moisture and salt in. It doesn't actually do anything to fix it. So still working on this. Going to try to get all this paint off before we do our next step. Okay, I think we got this to a place kind of want to be. It's a little bit of surface rust, not a big deal. Got most of the flaking off for the most part. You can still see some imperfections in it. I think it's all right for now. We used a brush on the angle grinder. This thing puts out a lot of power, so it can get a lot off. We use that drill over there with a smaller head to get up in those kind of things. Tried the sander didn't work real well. So we just mainly use those two to get it off, and then of course this thing over here to scrape everything. So now at this point, I tried to get everything out from these holes the best that I could. I used the vacuum to try to suck it out. Just again, this doesn't need to be perfect, just do the best we can. So now I'm just gonna try to sweep everything off, get as much dirt off as possible. I'm probably gonna go get some Dawn dish soap and water, wipe it off, make sure there's no grime and dirt in it, and then we'll get the metal prep on it, start etching it. All right, at this point, skipped a little bit ahead. We got the metal prep on it. I did, I guess it says to leave it sit wet on it for about 30 minutes. You can see it's like a white gray color now. You can hardly tell this is even rust. It loses that orange color, kind of like that. So it turns it kind of like a gray color. I did 3 coats of this since it's real windy today, real sunny, so it was drying up pretty fast. I might have done more, like 4 or 5, forget. But anyways, I let it sit on it for about 30 to 40 minutes, continuously wet. It has a little bit of a sticky feel to it after a while, so sprayed it off with water. You see the look that it gets. So we're gonna let it dry real good here, and then we're gonna start the POR 15 on it. Okay, so we got to the point where we're ready to start painting on the skid plate. Neighbor came and gave me this. this naval jelly to put on the rust. You can see there's almost no orange to it. Actually removed the rust very, very well. I was impressed how it did. So I used that and the POR 15 metal prep together. So I think they did pretty well. So you can see how it looks kind of all dried out and the rust pretty removed. I tried to get some of it down in there. It didn't work so well. So now we're starting to paint the inside. We got the outside done already and already did the undercarriage of the Jeep over there, the first coat. We're probably going to do one coat on this since it's just going to be hidden up there, but we're going to do 2 coats on the frame over there since that matters a little more. This past weekend, I had to get the skid plate and the gas tank in so I could get everything off to work. So I wasn't able to finish all the video to show how to install everything and the new Rubicon Express skid plate that went over the original factory skid plate. So I'm just going to get under there, explain what I did real quick. Again, I just had to get moving, get it all put together. I didn't have time to really film, but you can see the new Rubicon Express skid plate. It goes over the factory skid plate, which is why we redid it the best that we could just to seal off the rust. Basically, it's just holding this up at this point. This thing doesn't have a whole lot life left in it to take any type of beating. But while we had the gas tank off and the skid plate off, it's easiest just to attach this. It's pretty hard to attach this when this stuff's on. So we got that attached. While they were off, you can see here there's a few anchor points. The Rubicon Express skid plate will bolt into factory skid plate at 1, 2, and I think there's a third one that's up under here somewhere. You just can't see it. Didn't come with any bolts, so I ended up having to drill and find some stuff to go up in it. I'll put something better later. These are pretty small. Before anything went in at all, though, I took the time to undercoat the underneath of the Jeep. So you can see all the new POR 15 on the frame that I did here. Just the body, I just did some Rust-Oleum, a little bit of POR 15 on these parts, and then Rust-Oleum. I like that Rust-Oleum, it does pretty well. So everything underneath there got the POR 15. You can't really see real well. It's hard to get to unless, of course, this is dropped, so I took the advantage of doing that. This is already done with POR 15. All this over here, obviously, it's just really dirty. For those that have never dropped the gas tank before, with an older Jeep, it's 2010. I would definitely recommend doing it. There's a lot of rust up in on the frame and everything. When I took it off, a lot more than you can see. I didn't do this yet. There's not a lot of rust on it, but up underneath there was a lot. So I would definitely recommend doing it at some point if you can, just to fix that rust. For some reason, it holds a lot of salt water or something up there that makes everything rust out. So basically what we ended up doing is putting this all together in the yard. So we put the gas tank back in to the skid plate. It sits inside there, of course, and then bolting the Rubicon Express skid plate onto there, carrying it down here to the street, setting it on the street. We slid it underneath where close to the position it would be at under here, just by eyeing it up. It was incredibly heavy, so we used the floor jack, stuck it right about here in the middle with a box on, just keep from scratching. And then it's really easier with 2 people just to use the floor jack just to push it up and balance each side to make sure it doesn't topple over with all the gas that was still inside it. There's probably only a gallon or two left. I let it go pretty low, and then just try to get the bolts in one at a time. Hand tighten them so they're up. Before even lifting this up to install though, there's one wire back toward the back that needs plugged in. You'll see, you can't miss it. It's right on the top of the gas tank. You don't want to put this up and miss that because you'll never get to it. You'll have to drop it again. The rest of the hoses you can see back there that we disconnected. There are two right up underneath here. You can install everything, torque it down, and then install them later. You can get to them from right over there, right underneath or right above the frame. There's two hoses that need plugged in. They're easy to get to. And then down here, closer to the rear diff, all this stuff just gets plugged in exactly how we unplugged it. Make sure everything's plugged back into the evap canister there too. Okay, just a few things I'd recommend. Now we're wrapping this up. If you don't have a floor jack, you're gonna have a hard time. Definitely, I use it the whole time. I use it to get it up, get it down. The skid plate and the gas tank is very, very heavy. It's nothing fun to move around. It's kind of a hard one-man job. You can definitely do it. My wife helped me out with most of it, so it wasn't quite that bad with her. Let your gas tank go down to pretty much nothing. Run it dry. I went from Pittsburgh out to Ohio and drove back, and then drove to work for a few days just while still on E, just to let that get down as far as possible. There may have been a gallon of gasoline in there. Still made it a little bit heavy, but not that bad. I definitely could not have done any of this without a good impact wrench. Even if you have a breaker bar to get the 18mm bolts off of to get the factory skid in the gas tank out, you'll see what I mean. You can't get a breaker bar up there to be able to turn them. It's kind of straight up and down. You're gonna be, there's no leverage to give or anything. So you're definitely gonna want a really good 1/2 inch impact to be able to get those off. I didn't have one before this. I did a lot of jobs just by borrowing people's tools or just using the breaker bar and whatever else I could. I actually went out and bought a very nice impact wrench just for this. I've needed one for a long time, but after I started doing this, the breaker bar just wasn't cutting it. There's no way that was gonna work. So impact wrench, definitely. Floor jack, definitely. Other than that, you don't need any special tools. I would say the POR 15 metal prep works awesome. I've used it on a lot of things, but I was really, really happy with that navel jelly. Never heard of it before. I would definitely, if you have bad rust like I did on that was flaking and it's starting to put holes and stuff, we'll see how it holds up. But that navel jelly definitely eats up all that rust. It seemed to do really, really well. So I'm going to start using that a lot for any rusts. We're almost done coating the entire Jeep, the frame and everything, but not quite there. There's still a little bit of rust left. So all in all, it took me about 2 days to finish the entire project. I would say 90% of those 2 days were just letting paint dry. That POR 15, if anyone's ever used it, takes a very long time to dry. It takes about eight hours, okay, sorry, camera died there. So anyways, the POR 15 takes about 8 to 10 hours to dry. It takes a long time. So a lot of the 2 days was just waiting for that paint to dry and everything. So a lot of scraping on the original factory skid plate. That thing had a lot of rust on it. It kind of just chipped apart. It was very, very fragile after the fact, which is why I ended up just ordering the Rubicon Express skid plate to go over it, because that thing was never going to take a beating again. So basically, like I think I said earlier, that factory skid is there to hold up the